Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Basketball Officials Training Tape number 2 from the Wisconsin Officials Association Alliance. We are approaching the halfway point of the season. We are just before Christmas. Holiday tournaments start up next week. Many of you might take the time off. Many of you may squeeze in a lot of games. And we want to make sure that we're hammering home a lot of emphasis that we get from these videos and make sure that we're consistent across the board in how we're calling our games. Instead of taking the traditional 2 to 3 topic format that we usually do for these, we're going to actually just survey 10 plays and hit a bunch of different areas as we are seeing a lot of things that can be cleaned up a little bit. And part of that, is we have a lot of rule changes this year. We have our focus in different things. And sometimes we need to remember that we need to be cumulative with our learning instead of focused on certain points at certain times. Make sure that we're covering everything the best we can. Basketball is a very complex game, and we know that everyone is trying to do the absolute best that we can. So what we hope this video will do for you today is get a bunch of different little reminders in your head that you need to cover and make sure that we're officiating these plays effectively and as the best we can. There have been a lot of positive things that we have seen, some great calls, some great no calls. The officiating community is, I think, very alive and doing the best that they can and doing that best at a very high level. So without further ado, let's get right into it here. Let's remember our disclaimers. This is a product of the Wisconsin Officials Association Alliance. This video is. The training does not reflect any specific instruction given from the WIAA, any state association, or the NFHS. The training is for 3-person officiating crews at the high school level. You may see clips, and you will today, from college basketball games, but it all circles back to the high school game. And no video or comment is ever meant to call out, degrade players, coaches, officials, or teams in any way. We are trying to learn from these the best we can. And my name is Cade Murray. I'm the Officials Training Coordinator for the Wisconsin Officials Association Alliance. My email is there on the screen, and you are welcome to contact me at any point with questions or clarifications. So let's start off with a reminder of a rule change that occurred this year. We know that we had our big rule change with the throw-in spots, but what we are covering is a player out of bounds. We're going to see right as this play sets up, we have a player go out of bounds on the end line and then is called for a violation. Remember that these plays are now legal. The rule was redefined, and it wasn't an exception, but was basically rewritten to say that if the player is not gaining a distinct advantage, such as avoiding a screen, this is no longer a violation as long as they are not the first to touch the basketball. So if a player is going out of bounds on their own and is trying to reposition themselves on the court before the offense starts up, this is something that we can no longer have to call and let go. A good idea would be to verbally remind our players that this can be a violation. Many athletes, many coaches do not know that this is a violation under certain circumstances, so it's best to just use our words and talk it out if we can. But knowing now this year with Rule 933 that this is no longer a violation, we want to make sure that we're staying up to date on the more minor rule changes that we have, because these still can be major if they are not called correctly and they take away, say, a possession or a basket from a team. So just things to keep in mind and make sure that we keep up to date on all of those as we move forward. Let's take a look at our next play here. And this is just a reminder that screening action is something that is still very prevalent and is prevalent in many different ways. We see a lot of illegal screens happen with pick and rolls or backside screens. But what some offenses do very much now is the dribble handoff and the dribble drive offense. And this is an example of a team that is doing that. And often within these types of offenses, we have dribble handoffs, and then players set what coaches call rub screens, where they hand off and then they go through and they try to screen the player chasing after them. Keep in mind that even though these are a different type of screen that we don't see as often, we still need to have that legal screening position where we need to give that defender time to react. It doesn't mean that the defender has to be looking at them, but they need to be 2 feet on the floor and in place so that they are not committing an offensive foul. In this case, we do a really good job as the center official here of seeing this play where the player hands the ball off and then takes out the new primary defender on the new ball handler. We want to make sure that obviously we get these with accuracy and make sure that they have a big influence on the play. But especially when teams don't switch these screens like what occurs here, this is a huge advantage if we don't get this. Center and trail need to make sure that when they officiate these plays, they keep their vision open, just like this center official did in this case. They keep their vision, open to a possible competitive matchup. In this case, that's screen, and they come over and they effectively help. You should definitely know as a center that if you're on your own and you have an action right like this, that you need to be able to cover this play if you can. If we have this happen on the trail and lead side, lead can certainly help out if they don't have a competitive matchup in their primary. But trail and center just need to make sure they do a really good job of opening up, seeing the play the whole way through so that they can cover these plays effectively. So on this play, we're going to be looking at our positioning and transition. Remember, positioning was a point of emphasis for the WIAA to start the season, and this applies in all areas of the game, including transition. What we see here is a fast break play where the trail new lead kind of gets beat down the floor, and rightfully so. These are very good athletes here. So they need to get themselves in position to best officiate the play as well as they can. And we see them kind of, hug the sideline, and the contact is what it is. We don't have a good camera angle to be able to see it. But as officials, we can get ourselves in a really good position to be able to see this, even better than what we might have. Now, we do see that the new lead kind of lags behind a little bit, tries to see the play the best they can, but they can improve their position even better. So if they were to, say, curl in a little bit, just like this, and see, right on the volleyball line, they're going to be able to see the space between these two players much easier. And that allows for us to better effectively officiate this play. Especially in a case where we have players hip on hip, we need to be able to see that contact between the two of them to determine if we have any illegal contact. So as this play kind of plays out, you can make the judgment for yourself if there's a foul or not. But if we can do our best to kind of curl in, be patient, see the play develop, we're going to be able to cover these plays more effectively, especially in transition in spots where we are most vulnerable. On this play, we see a rotation happening, and we have a foul that gets called here as the lead is rotating across the floor. Some things to keep in mind when we rotate as the lead. We continue to officiate our primary areas. So in this case, we see a drive happen, and it's the ball handler and the primary defender coming in from the center's primary. We want the center to be responsible for those. The lead, as they rotate across, needs to be responsible for those secondary defenders. So in this case, blue 5 is who we ideally want to have see happen, see what their actions are on this certain play. And then we can officiate effectively. Now, if we get over and we turn our hips and then we see contact there, that's a different story. But this play occurs as the lead is rotating. So the lead really shouldn't have too many eyes on the ball handler in this case, and really needs to be focused in on blue number 5. We want the primary defender foul calls to come from the official in whose primary it originated in, which in this case is the center's. So as the center, we want to own this play the whole way through, and then the lead wants to pick up these secondary defenders. And I think that's very important that we do that, because if there is contact by the secondary defender in this case and none on the primary ball handler, we're not going to know how that secondary defender got there, and that causes us to do some guesswork on a potential block charge. So we want to stay disciplined in our primaries even when we rotate, so we can cover plays like these effectively and not have to do any guesswork. On this play, there are a few things that I want to talk about. The first is our mechanics as we deal with pressure. I would really like to commend the center official here on doing a really good job of staying engaged with the play and not bailing too hard on the trail in full court coverage. We see that they're very patient. They follow the play, their competitive matchups up the floor, and then they also assist in a play like this in which there is a backcourt violation. Especially in plays where a pass is happening from right in front of the trail and then there's a player coming up to catch it by the division line. We as a center official want to make sure that we're up there and we're covering this. And the center official is all over it and does a phenomenal job with assisting their trail on this play. Another thing we want to make sure that we consider is we know what status and control are as it relates to this situation. So in this case, the player who is throwing this pass is in the backcourt. So that player and the ball have backcourt status. Then, as the player who is in the front court goes up and jumps and catches the ball, once they catch that ball, they are now in the front court with that basketball. So when they land on the division line, which would be a backcourt violation if they simply just dribbled up and touched that line, they would be committing a backcourt violation. That's exactly what they do. They jump from the front court, they grab the ball, okay, now they're in the front court, and then they go and they put their foot down on the line and commit a backcourt violation. So a lot of really good, knowledgeable officiating coming from this crew in general, but especially the center official does a great job of covering this really effectively. I like everything that I see in this play. And then just as a general reminder, as it relates to backcourt violations, we want to make sure we put the ball in at the 28-foot mark in the new front court. So circling back to our topic about primary officials covering the primary ball handler and the primary defender, this is a really well done example by this crew of officiating these types of plays. Now we see that there is a drive that initiates from the trail's primary. The lead is officiating the secondary defender that comes through. The trail follows that primary ball handler all the way in. That ball handler commits a traveling violation, and the lead does a good job of officiating the secondary defenders and doesn't even have a whistle on this play. And it's good that they don't, because that means that they're watching the secondary defender. Now, if they see it and the trail passes on it and then the lead is like, ooh, that's a travel, they can certainly come in and get it. But we trust our partners in this case. Trail does an excellent job of following this play all the way in, and thus gets this play and covers it effectively. And again, officiating the secondary defender is what this lead does. I would maybe like to see the lead just a few steps wider to cover the play a little bit more and have a little bit wider angle in case that end line is threatened. But overall does a good job of picking up that secondary defender, and the secondary defender does a good job of getting in front. And I think this is a good no call. So I think there are a lot of good things to take away from this play, and this crew does a great job of doing so. Staying on that topic, this is another example where we have contact now. So we see this drive originate from the trail's primary. The lead steps in and covers that secondary defender, which is black 23. But the trail official comes in and also officiates this play and their primary defender. Now, we can talk about, right at that line of intersection, right, with the free throw line. Now, that's a little bit different than saying that drive truly originated from the trail's primary. But in this case, I think the trail does a good job of helping out. The lead has to cover those secondary defenders, so the trail comes in and officiates that primary defender. This is a case where a double whistle would really be okay, because there are a lot of defenders to cover, and we have two sets of eyes on the play. And if I would have to guess, and I don't know for sure, I would say we probably have a potentially a foul on both if the lead official is calling a foul. In this case, the clip cuts out too soon. So just some things to think about, with this. Again, stay engaged as the trail. Once the ball goes into the lane, that doesn't mean that we don't watch plays anymore, especially in those areas of intersection with primaries. Trail can still help out following that primary defender all the way to the rim. And again, we cover this play very effectively. So this is a really good play because it's a reminder that the lead has to cover secondary defenders, not just in the paint. We see that we have a secondary defender come from the corner and try to step in and take a charge on this play. And the lead does a good job of picking it up. even though, going to number 14 is the easy thing to do, they widen themselves out so that they can see the entirety of their primary. They see that blue 5 is going to come in and step and try and take a charge, and they're able to see if they establish position, which I would argue that I don't believe that they do. And I think that the lead just does a good job of, again, widening that vision. That's really important as officials in all of our primaries, to widen out. Don't focus in on just one player. If you can cover a couple players, cover a couple of them. And that's exactly what the lead does in this case. Trail does a great job of officiating their primary defender and then leaving this to the lead. Excellent job by the crew and the lead official in this instance. In this play, we're focusing on the center official and some screening action that occurs on the backside. And Black 13 kind of sets a screen and initially gets in good position. And then this is more of a reminder that just because a player establishes that screen position doesn't mean that they can't still commit an offensive foul, and we need to stay with it the whole way through. In this case, again, Black 13 kind of gets into good position, but then moves and continues to hold up that defender, getting around him, and thus creating a huge advantage. And the center official does a great job, again, of staying engaged with this. While this is a little bit more subtle than most illegal screens that we might see, this is still an example of a screen that we want to get, because, again, once you set your screen and get into position, you have to maintain that, and you can't move and try and hook or hold defenders in any other case. And in this case, he does it very subtly, and I think he does his best case to, does his best job to try and hide it. But the center official is on top of it, and that's what we want to see out of plays like these, and making sure, again, that we're covering plays effectively. I can't stress that enough. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 2. I hope you found these extremely useful, extremely beneficial. If you would like to become a member of the WIAA, there are many more benefits to it than just these videos that are accessible to the public. There are private videos that get released each week covering specific plays a little bit more in depth. There are weekly rules quizzes with rule references for you to follow that you can share with your crews. And all you have to do is join one of the 4 associations currently involved in the WIAA. And that is the WROA, which is out of the Dells. And your contact, if you would like to join, is in the bottom left. You can contact Brian Kenny. We have the AHOA, which is up in the Hudson area. You can contact Tim Whitaker if you would like to be a member of that. He's in the top left. The CWOA, which is like the Wausau area, central Wisconsin. Nick Pilsner is your contact there. He's in the bottom right. And then Cameron Bump is your contact for the IHOA, which is up in the Eau Claire area. Thanks for listening, and good luck in your games.